Chosen ones, you are finally meeting someone from America. But listen, not everyone is ready to see this. There's a reason you feel this shift inside you. A quiet electricity humming beneath your skin, a presence drawing closer. One that doesn't speak your language, but understands your soul. Someone is coming, and they're not from your city, your country, or even your world, at least not the one you've been surviving in. They're coming from a different place, a different energy, a different truth. America. And no, this isn't about flags or borders. This is about frequencies. The person you're about to meet carries something ancient, disguised as new. A force that mirrors your own. They've lived lives in fast motion. They've seen through illusion at speed. They've been burned by a dream called freedom. And now they're looking for something real. That something is you. But chosen one, keep quiet. Not because you're afraid, but because power like this moves in silence. This isn't for gossip. It's for alignment. It's for timing. It's for destiny. Comment 777 right now if your spirit is already nodding, if your intuition said yes before your mind could catch up. This connection is not random. It's not cute. It's cosmic. You've been calling it in with your tears, with your prayers, with your stillness. And now it's showing up. Maybe not in a way you expected. Maybe not with fanfare or lightning bolts, but in the way sacred things always arrive, quiet, undeniable, and life-altering. Subscribe to this channel to walk alongside thousands of chosen ones around the world who feel this exact same pull. Souls who know that timing isn't man-made, it's divine. The one from America, you'll recognize them not by their accent, but by their silence, by the weight they carry, by how they pause before they speak, like every word costs something. They've been hurt by truth. You've been hurt by lies. Together, you're about to collapse that cycle. But chosen one, don't tell everyone. Not yet. Some people around you still think in straight lines. They wouldn't recognize a spiritual collision if it knocked on their door and said, "Your name, protect this, hold it sacred." This isn't just a meeting, it's a reunion. Your soul knew them before your eyes ever will. And when you finally do meet, whether in person, online, in a moment that catches you off guard, something inside will whisper, "I remember." Don't question it. Don't fight it. Just breathe, receive, and remember who you are. This isn't about dating. This isn't about romance. This is about activation. When they speak, something in your DNA will shift. Like a dormant code finally waking up. Your hands may shake. Your voice may crack. But your soul will be steady. Comment 777 again if you're still with me. If you can feel the electricity crawling up your spine. This is confirmation. You're not crazy. You're not imagining this. The person you're about to meet is real. And more importantly, they're ready. Just like you. And let's be clear, not everybody gets this moment. Many live and die without ever meeting someone who speaks their soul's language. But you were chosen. And so were they. So when it happens, don't flinch, don't run, stand still. Let it arrive. But still, keep quiet. The sacred doesn't need an audience. You don't need to post it. You don't need to explain it. Some things lose power when exposed too soon. And this connection, it's still forming, still glowing beneath the surface. Protect it, if you haven't already. Like this video, not for me, for you, for the energy you're agreeing to receive, for the alignment that's already unfolding. And subscribe not to chase numbers, but to stay rooted with others who get it, who feel it, who are walking through the same portals you are, across countries and timelines and spiritual dimensions. This meeting, it's part of your upgrade. You've passed the tests. You've walked alone for years. You've endured the silence, the doubt, the spiritual attacks, and now you're being met, not saved. Met. That's different. Meeting someone from America is just the label. The truth is, you're meeting someone who has survived illusions just like you. And now the two of you are about to build something real. Not flashy, not performative, but eternal. And the moment you meet, you'll know. It won't be logic. It'll be memory. A voice that doesn't speak English, or Vietnamese, or French, but speaks truth straight to your marrow. They will feel the familiar, not because you've seen them, but because you've dreamed them. Chosen one, comment 777, one last time. Let your spirit answer the call. Let the universe register your readiness. Because what's arriving is bigger than connection. It's collaboration. It's confirmation. It's convergence. This isn't about fate. It's about fulfillment. But here's what most people don't know. Chosen one, the moment before you meet them, is not quiet. It's loud in the spirit. Your sleep gets lighter. Your thoughts get sharper. The world starts showing you symbols, license plates, cities, names, rhythms in the noise. You start hearing songs you never picked, lyrics you've never noticed before. You'll be walking through your day, and suddenly the energy shifts like something just entered the room. That's not your imagination. That's the signal. They're close, and your soul is tuning itself to their frequency. You weren't meant to meet them when you were still trying to be liked, still trying to fit in, still trying to shrink yourself to match small minds. This is why they didn't come earlier. They couldn't. You hadn't stepped into your true size yet. But now you've stopped asking permission to exist. You've stopped lowering your voice to make others comfortable. You've stopped explaining your spirit to people who don't even see your light. That's when they were allowed to enter. And the strange part is, they've been guided too. They've seen signs, heard your name in places that didn't make sense, dreamed of someone they couldn't describe, walked away from options that should have worked. But something deep down said, not this, not yet. They didn't know it, but they were being pulled toward you, toward alignment, not attachment, toward destiny, not distraction. And when your eyes meet, it won't be romantic, it will be revolutionary. Because this connection is not about butterflies, it's about blueprints. They're not coming to sweep you off your feet. They're coming to build something with you, something invisible but unshakable. The moment you speak, something ancient will unlock between you. Not chemistry, covenant, not excitement, recognition. But listen, this is sacred soil. Not everyone deserves to stand here with you. That's why the tests before this meeting were so brutal. You had to learn how to guard your peace, how to hold your energy, how to walk away from chaos without needing to explain yourself. You had to become the kind of person who could recognize real love, not because it impressed you, but because it felt like home. And now that you're here, now that you've made it to this frequency, you're about to collide with something timeless, something holy, but not perfect. This connection won't be clean. It will challenge your patterns. It will stretch your patience. It will break the walls you built just to survive. But it will not hurt you. It will not deplete you. And it will not leave. The one from America, they carry a wound, you understand. Not the same details, but the same scar. They've been burned by ambition, misunderstood by their own blood, worshipped for their image and starved for real connection. They've tried to shrink themselves for people who could never hold them, just like you did, until now. And chosen one, you won't have to fix them. You'll just see them, and that will be enough. No saving, no molding, no performing, just seeing, fully, clearly, and holding space for who they've been, who they are, and who they're still becoming. The connection itself will do the rest. Your energy will teach them. Their stillness will remind you. Your presence will crack open a part of them they thought they buried for good. And they'll do the same for you. But this is not a love story. It's a soul agreement. And agreements like this are rare. That's why your path has been so lonely. That's why the people you tried to love before never quite fit. You weren't crazy. You weren't hard to please. You were calibrated for something deeper. Something that can't be copied or faked or forced. Comment 777 if you know exactly what I mean. If your heart has been pacing the floor while your mind tried to play it cool. If you've felt this connection long before this video ever confirmed it, you're not preparing to meet them. You're preparing to times receive times them. There's a difference. Preparation is control. Reception is surrender. You don't need to manipulate this. You don't need to rush it. You don't need to test it to make sure it's real. All you need to do is stay aligned. Stay clear. Stay open. The energy will do the rest. And remember, quiet. This kind of alignment can't be explained to people who haven't done the work. They'll project their fears onto it, question it, diminish it. Don't let them. This connection doesn't need defense. It needs protection. Guard it, like you would guard a fragile new flame in the wind. Because the moment you meet them, life as you knew it ends. Not in tragedy, in clarity. You'll finally see why none of the past made sense. Why you had to cry alone. Why the silence felt so heavy. Why the delays felt like punishment. They weren't. They were divine timing, protecting something too sacred to be rushed. You weren't being denied. You were being preserved. This connection is not for the faint-hearted. It will expose your ego. It will humble your pride. It will force you to unlearn every toxic blueprint of love you were taught by broken people. But it will heal you in ways therapy never could. Because some lessons don't come from reading. They come from meeting. And that's what this is. Not a chapter, a turning point, not a crush, a convergence. You were not designed to meet this person early. You had to be broken enough to be soft, empty enough to be filled, whole enough to stop looking for someone to fix you. This connection isn't about rescue, it's about reflection. You're not mirrors, you're keys, unlocking parts of each other no one else could reach. But still, silence, because the loudest things in life begin quietly. They begin in the stillness between words. In the glances you can't explain. In the space where your souls recognize each other before your mouths do. The moment will feel like nothing. And everything. The kind of moment that rearranges time itself. And from then on, you'll know. Not guess. Not wonder. Know. And that knowing will steady you in ways no amount of reassurance ever could. So, be ready, but not desperate. Be open, but not noisy. Be patient, because the arrival is already in motion. Every delay, every disappointment, every detour, it all led to this. And when they show up, don't overthink it. Just breathe, feel, remember. Because deep down, you already do. You'll notice the shift, not in the fireworks, but in the pauses. The way time slows down around them. The way conversations stretch into silence without discomfort. The way your nervous system doesn't spike, but settles. Your breath deepens. Your shoulders lower. It's not adrenaline. It's alignment. It's what it feels like when two frequencies match without needing to fight for dominance. You'll be sitting across from them, coffee going cold, and realize hours passed. Not because you were distracted, but because you were finally present. And that presence, chosen one, is everything. Because you've lived 1,000 lives inside your head, trying to make others understand you. You've watered yourself down just to keep peace. You've performed your way into love, only to be met with distance. But with this person, there is no show. There is only truth. No costume, no agenda, no defense. This isn't emotional intensity. This is emotional honesty. And the honesty will feel almost jarring. They won't play hard to get. They won't breadcrumb. They won't ghost you into clarity. They'll show up, fully, willingly, softly, with no need to test your loyalty, because they'll feel it in your silence, with no urge to control the pace, because they'll recognize that the real thing moves on its own clock. You won't have to convince them, and you won't have to prove anything, because in this connection, proving becomes obsolete. Your energy will speak louder than your words ever could. You'll notice them remembering things you barely said, making space for needs you forgot to voice. They're not doing it for approval. They're doing it because they feel you, deeply, in ways no one has ever taken time to. And you'll be tempted to doubt it, because it feels too soft, too grounded, too unlike the chaos you once called love. But that's the point. This connection doesn't come to excite your trauma. It comes to end it. And endings, even beautiful ones, feel strange at first, especially when you've spent a lifetime bracing for the drop. But there is no drop here, only depth. So take a breath and let it in. You've waited long enough. The person coming carries maps you forgot you needed. They'll speak with a cadence that matches your inner rhythm. They'll know when to lean in and when to step back, not because you told them, but because their spirit listens before their mouth speaks. They'll bring you information your soul requested, not just through words, but through their presence. They'll be both comfort and call. Comfort, because you'll feel safe without having to collapse your boundaries. Call, because they'll challenge the places you've stayed small and call it peace. They won't let you shrink, not out of ego, but out of love. Because when someone sees your magnitude, they can't pretend you're average. And this person, this soul arriving from America, or what America represents in the realm of spirit, has been prepared to see you at full scale. This is not about distance, it's about dimension. This person is crossing realms to meet you, not just flights or time zones, but energetic timelines. They had to dissolve old selves to even arrive on your frequency. That's why it's been delayed. You both had layers to shed, lessons to complete, ties to cut. This meeting could not happen until you both were clean. And now the soil is finally fertile. But even fertile ground can't be planted carelessly. That's why you must stay quiet. Not hidden, not afraid, just wise. Because people who've never grown their own garden will trample yours without even noticing. They'll look at this connection through the lens of drama, romance, ego. They'll see the surface and call it simple. But you and this person, you are building a temple, not made of bricks, made of truth, layered truth, generational truth. And temples don't shout, they stand, So when the moment comes, and it will stand, don't over-explain the bond. Don't second-guess the pace. Don't shrink to make it digestible for those who've only tasted artificial love. This is raw. This is sacred. This is yours. And most of all, it's mutual. This is not a one-sided story. This isn't you loving them into wholeness. This isn't you waiting in silence for breadcrumbs of effort. No, this is someone who's done the work, who's built their inner house strong enough to invite another soul in, who's not intimidated by your strength, but stabilized by it, who doesn't need to fix you, just witness you. And in witnessing you, they heal themselves too, not because you're a project, but because presence is medicine. The way you listen will rewire them. The way you breathe near them will slow their pulse. The way your eyes hold theirs will show them there's still softness left in this world. And it's not weakness, it's power. A power the world forgot. A power you both remembered. And that remembering will change everything. You won't need to plan your future in one night. You won't need to define the label. You'll just walk together, step by step, in rhythm. Not because it's flawless, but because it's time's real. Asterisk. And real is rare. So keep this sacred. Not because you're hiding, but because you're honoring. Because you finally understand that not everything sacred should be spoken too soon. Some things must breathe in silence before they can speak in fire. And this connection? It's pure fire, quiet fire, the kind that warms, not burns, the kind that lights the whole sky without ever needing to scream. This is not just a meeting, it's a merging, not of bodies, but of timelines, of missions, of prayers whispered under breath in different corners of the world, now being answered in one gaze, one voice, one presence. You didn't find them. You remembered them. You didn't chase them. You aligned with them. And now, the soul you've been preparing for is preparing for you. But here's the part no one warned you about before they arrive. The tests get heavier, not because the universe is cruel, but because your field is being cleared. Distractions will show up wearing masks that look like love. Old energies will try to slip back in, promising they've changed. You'll be tempted to settle one last time, to choose comfort over calling, to return to versions of yourself that were easier to carry but harder to live inside. Don't. These are echoes, not invitations. They are not signs to go back. They are checkpoints to see if you're truly ready to move forward. Because when this person enters your life, they won't come to entertain your patterns. They'll come to replace them, not with rules, but with rhythm. And that rhythm won't feel familiar at first. It'll feel still. And for someone like you, who's had to survive in noise, stillness might feel suspicious. You'll wonder if something's missing. You'll question why your heart isn't racing. You'll confuse peace for boredom because you've been conditioned to think love should hurt a little. But this won't. This will hold. And when it does, your nervous system might panic, not from fear, but from withdrawal. You've been addicted to uncertainty, to proving yourself worthy of crumbs, to chasing after people who weren't even facing you. And now, someone is walking straight toward you with no disguise, no delay, no disguise, and your body doesn't know how to handle being chosen without needing to earn it. So it shakes. But let it. Because that shaking, it's your old identity leaving the room, and what's entering is everything you once begged for in silence. Chosen one. Do not explain this connection to people who only know transaction. They will reduce it to coincidence. They will compare it to their timelines. They will plant seeds of doubt in soil they've never watered. And if you're not careful, you'll start believing them. You'll forget that this was written long before you got here. That this meeting was always going to happen. Not because you forced it, but because you surrendered. And now it's here. Or close. Closer than you think. And you'll recognize it not by the way they look, but by the way you feel. Not excited, not obsessed, but calm. Deeply calm. Like an exhale you didn't know you were holding finally leaves your body. Like your spirit whispers, "Oh, we made it." Not loudly, not dramatically, but with that quiet conviction that can't be faked. You'll find yourself saying things you've never said out loud. Not because you planned to, because your soul finally feels safe enough to speak, and they won't flinch. They'll meet you there, in the deep end, with no need to rescue, no need to run, just presence. Just presence so full, so grounded, that it makes time irrelevant. You'll lose track of what day it is. You'll forget the scripts, the roles, the expectations. You'll just exist. And existence, when witnessed with love, becomes holy. That's what this is. Not romance, not fantasy, but holy recognition. And it's not because they're perfect, or that you are. It's because you both reached a point where you no longer needed perfection to feel safe. You just needed honesty, and now you're both ready to be seen in the rawest, most unfiltered versions of yourselves, without shame, without masks, without fear of being too much. Because this person won't just understand your light, they'll honor your shadows. They won't look at your scars with sympathy. They'll trace them with reverence. Because they'll know those scars aren't wounds. They're maps, proof that you walked through fire and still chose love, still chose softness, still chose to stay open when the world tried to shut you down. And you'll do the same for them. You won't flinch when they tell you about the years they wasted trying to be enough for people who only loved fragments. You won't judge the parts of them that are still healing. You'll hold them, not with force, but with patience, with truth, with presence so steady it feels like prayer. And it is, because two souls seeing each other clearly is the highest form of worship. This is not about soulmates, it's about soul mirrors. And when you meet a mirror this true, it's not always comfortable, but it's always necessary. Because it shows you where you've been hiding, where you've been pretending, where you've been settling for less than the divine blueprint written over your life. And when they show up, you'll finally stop negotiating with your worth. You'll stop lowering your frequency just to keep someone company. You'll stop explaining your intuition to people committed to misunderstanding you, because now there will be someone who hears your silence louder than others hear your screams. And that kind of hearing, that kind of resonance, it rewires everything. You'll laugh deeper, not because things are funnier, but because you're no longer laughing through pain. You're laughing through presence, through truth, through safety. And it will sound different, lighter, realer, and they'll notice and smile. And you'll both know you didn't just survive, you arrived, but not in a destination, in a dimension. And dimensions like this can't be faked, finessed, or forced. They are found in stillness, in alignment, in readiness. And now you're ready. And the strange part is, you'll forget the moment it began. You won't remember the exact time they entered your space. It won't be grand. It won't be cinematic. There won't be music swelling in the background or a spotlight from the sky. It'll feel ordinary on the surface, maybe even unremarkable. A comment, a glance, a question, But something inside you will shift, like a tuning fork finally struck at the right frequency. You won't say, "This is the one." You'll just feel the noise fade away, not because they complete you, but because you've finally completed enough of yourself to recognize who belongs in your field without disruption. There won't be games, no power struggles, no endless decoding of text messages or tone. Just clarity. Not fast, not slow, just steady. And that steadiness will scare you a little. Not because it's wrong, but because it's so foreign. You've lived in chaos so long, peace feels suspicious. You've worked so hard for love, ease feels unearned. But that's what makes this connection different. It doesn't arrive because you're perfect. It arrives because you're real. And when something real finds you, it doesn't ask for performance. It doesn't want the best version of you. It wants the honest one, the version who's quiet some days, messy on others, soft without warning, fiery without apology. And this person, they won't be confused by your contradictions. They'll be fluent in them, because they've met themselves too. That's the unspoken bond between you. Two people who've gone to war within and chosen peace without. You won't have to. Teach them how to love you. They'll just listen. They won't need a list of rules, just truth. And you'll give it to them not because you're afraid of losing them, but because withholding has finally become too heavy to carry. This connection is not about fixing, it's about being. And being, when done in full presence, becomes the most healing thing in the world. They'll sit with your silence and not fill it. They'll see your storm and not try to stop it. They'll watch you crack open and not flinch. Not because they're numb, but because they've been there. They've bled in similar places. They've rebuilt in solitude. They've lost pieces of themselves they thought would never return. And now they're finding fragments of those pieces reflected back in you. It will feel like recovery, not from them, but beside them. And recovery beside someone who holds no judgment is one of the rarest forms of grace you'll ever receive. So, when they show up, you'll feel both seen and stretched. You'll be called higher without being pushed. You'll be loved fiercely without being consumed. You'll be challenged without being torn down. They'll remind you of everything you've always been, not by telling you, but by standing beside you as you remember it yourself. They'll hold space for your past without trying to rewrite it. They'll honor your present without trying to mold it. They'll speak to your future without trying to own it. And through it all, they'll remain, not as a savior, not as a solution, but as a mirror, one that doesn't distort, one that doesn't lie, one that shows you the angles you've been afraid to face, and does it with such gentleness that you finally find the courage to look. And you'll begin to speak differently, not with louder words, but with truer ones. No more sugarcoating, no more spiritual bypassing, no more pretending that you're fine when you're breaking inside. You'll tell the truth, not because it's easy, but because with them, it's safe. And safety, that's the real gift. Because when you feel safe, your soul expands, your energy becomes magnetic, your creativity explodes, your clarity sharpens. You stop shrinking to survive and start expanding to serve. And this person, they won't dim that. They'll protect it, not with rules, not with fences, but with presence, with consistency, with integrity. And when conflict arises, and it will, they won't run. They'll stay. They won't punish you with silence. They won't weaponize vulnerability. They won't retreat into ego. They'll lean in, ask better questions, listen deeper, not to win but to understand. and you'll feel something inside you soften. A lifelong habit of bracing for abandonment slowly dissolving, because now someone is showing you that repair is possible, that love doesn't leave at the first crack, that presence doesn't vanish at the first tear. And maybe, just maybe, loyalty doesn't have to be earned through pain anymore. This isn't a fantasy. This is spiritual maturity, meeting emotional intelligence. And the result? Peace. Not just peace in your home, not just peace in your schedule, but peace in your body. The kind that makes you sleep deeper, breathe slower, move more deliberately, speak with intention, love with both softness and strength. Because now, you're no longer trying to be lovable, you're simply loving. And in that frequency, everything aligns. And then one day, it hits you, you're not looking for the moment anymore, because you're already living in it. Not the fireworks, not the declaration, just the quiet knowing that something real has entered your life and has no intention of leaving. You'll stop counting days, stop measuring progress, stop asking, where is this going? Because suddenly, you're no longer chasing a destination. You're anchoring into presence, into now, into the sacred ordinary. They'll fold into your life like they were always meant to be there. Not with noise, not with urgency, just with a quiet belonging that doesn't ask to be earned. You'll catch yourself reaching for your phone without anxiety, smiling before you see their name, trusting their silence as much as their words. That's when you know it's no longer about getting love. It's about being in it. And they won't interrupt your path. They'll walk it with you, not to lead, not to follow, but to match pace, to move beside you in rhythm. You didn't have to explain. They'll ask questions that make your spine straighten. They'll pause before responding, not because they don't care, but because they care enough to listen twice before they speak. You'll notice how their presence doesn't pull you out of yourself. It pulls you deeper in. This person won't fix your wounds, but they'll make it safe to bleed. They'll sit with your grief without rushing you out of it. They'll hold your shaking hands without asking why they tremble. They'll witness your story without turning it into a project. You won't have to be strong all the time. You won't have to prove you've healed. You'll just have to show up. And they'll meet you there with a kind of attentiveness that feels like exhale. And when you share your vision, they won't shrink it. They'll expand it. They'll ask how they can help build it. They'll offer resources without strings. They'll suggest ideas not to take over, but to walk with. Their ambition won't compete with yours. It will complement it. Because in this connection, success is not a solo pursuit. It's shared momentum. It's you and them, shoulder to shoulder, asking not, how can I win, but how far can we go together? You'll have conversations that feel like time travel, not because they're futuristic, but because they activate parts of you that felt stuck in the past. Words you didn't know you needed to hear will tumble from their lips, and suddenly, memories that once held pain will start dissolving into perspective. You'll begin to rewrite your narrative not alone, but witnessed, not retold, but re-understood. And that re-understanding, that changes everything. Because you'll finally stop blaming yourself for what you didn't know back then. You'll stop carrying guilt for the choices you made in survival mode. You'll stop apologizing for your growth. This person will not shame your evolution. They will celebrate it, not with praise, but with space. They'll create room for all the versions of you that had to exist to bring you here. And when you cry because you will, they won't flinch. They won't try to stop the tears or explain them away. They'll hold them like something holy, not because they enjoy your sadness, but because they see it as sacred proof that you are still open, still soft, still alive, and in a world that tries to harden you, that softness becomes your superpower. This connection will not need labels to feel real. It will not beg for validation. It will not demand urgency or promises. It will simply ask for honesty, presence, willingness. And those three things will build something stronger than vows spoken under pressure or titles given out of fear. Because now, you're not here to perform love. You're here to live it. And you'll begin to move differently in the world. Not louder, not faster, but deeper. You'll notice you're no longer drained after interactions, that conversations have more weight and less noise, that your energy no longer leaks into empty spaces, because you've stopped trying to be everywhere. You've stopped trying to be everything. You've stopped searching for meaning in people who never even listened when you spoke, because now there is someone who hears the pauses between your words. Someone who senses when you're off without needing an explanation. Who knows when to reach and when to wait, when to hold and when to let you unfold on your own. This isn't about dependency. This is about resonance. You're not clinging, you're harmonizing. And it's that harmony that changes how you love. Because when love is no longer survival, it becomes expansion. You'll take up more space without apology. You'll create without hesitation. You'll rest without guilt. You'll speak with certainty, not arrogance, but knowing. You'll start to trust your own voice again, not because they told you to, but because their presence reminds you that it's safe to. This is what happens when the soul meets its echo. Not an imitation, not a shadow, but a reflection so honest, so grounding, that you stop questioning whether you're too much. You stop asking if you're worthy. You stop doubting if your sensitivity is a burden. Because now, someone has entered your life who treats your sensitivity as a doorway, a path, a sacred trail that leads them closer, not away. And maybe that's the thing you never expected, not just to be loved, but to be times followed inward, asterisk, into the deep places, the quiet rooms, the unlit corners of yourself that you thought you'd have to carry alone forever. Now, you walk together, not to escape the dark, but to understand it, to witness it, to love it until it becomes light. And what no one tells you is how quiet the transformation is once they arrive. There is no announcement, no moment of revelation to the outside world. The change happens in private, subtle, internal, like your breath deepens without you realizing, like your nervous system rewrites its memory of what safety feels like. You stop rehearsing conversations in your head. You stop bracing for withdrawal. You stop explaining your needs before they're even questioned, because now there is a presence beside you that doesn't need a backstory to believe you. They believe you because you speak. They believe you because you feel. They believe you because your energy doesn't lie. And for the first time, you realize that belief doesn't need to be earned. It only needs to be honored. So you stop trying to prove that you're enough. You stop performing emotional acrobatics for someone to stay. You stop twisting yourself into smaller shapes just to fit into conversations that don't know how to hold weight. And in that stillness, in that quiet space of being, something miraculous begins to grow. Not love, but freedom. Because real love cannot grow in captivity. It needs air. It needs choice. It needs space. And this person, this soul you've been sensing from oceans away, will not cage you in to keep you close. They will free you to stand taller, to speak louder, to exist without armor. They won't hold your wings. They'll ask where you're ready to fly. And not once will they make you feel like you owe them for loving you. You won't hear guilt masked as romance. You won't feel trapped by their attention. You won't carry their insecurities like a leash around your neck. This love won't ask you to shrink your light, to make them feel taller. They'll see your light and nod, because they've built their own, and they're not afraid to share the stage. They won't compete with your shine. They'll match it, and you'll notice something else too. Your body will start to heal, not in ways that look miraculous, in ways that look like consistency. You'll sleep deeper, digest better, you'll breathe without restriction. The chronic tightness in your chest will fade, not because they are your medicine, but because your body will finally stop defending itself from love. The constant readiness to run, the background panic you've carried since childhood, the silent exhaustion of always being on guard, it begins to dissolve. Because now there is no attack. Now there is no enemy. Now there is only witness, only warmth, only presence. And presence, when steady enough, becomes a form of rescue you didn't know you needed. Not rescue from your pain, rescue from your pretending, rescue from the mask you crafted to survive in a world that never asked how you were actually doing. This person will not strip the mask from you. They will simply wait, sit, stay, until you decide you no longer need it. And when you take it off, not with a dramatic reveal, but with a quiet sigh, they will not be surprised. They will not flinch. They will not step back, because they never fell in love with the mask. They saw through it the moment they met you. And you'll feel seen in a way that humbles you. Not flattered, not admired. Seen, not your potential, not your resume, you. The flaws you tried to edit out. The past you tried to forget. The parts of your soul you exiled because others told you they were too intense, too sensitive, too complicated. This person won't just accept those parts, they'll invite them in. And suddenly, the table you thought was only set for your most polished self becomes a feast for your full humanity. You'll share things you thought were unspeakable, not to shock them, just because the words stop burning in your throat. Because when someone offers silence without judgment, the truth rushes in. And when it does, when it pours out of you like water bursting through a dam, they won't try to fix it. They won't hand you advice wrapped in spiritual bypassing. They'll just sit in it with you. Let it echo, let it breathe, let it land. And when you finally go quiet, exhausted by your own release, they'll hold that silence like it's holy. And it is. Because healing doesn't always sound like joy. Sometimes it sounds like exhaustion. Sometimes it sounds like finally telling the truth. Sometimes it sounds like nothing at all. And they'll understand that deeply, because they've sat in their own silences too. They've had to unlearn the idea that healing looks pretty. They've had to admit the way they've performed wisdom to be loved. They've had to lose the version of themselves that was built in reaction to pain. And now they're showing up not with perfection, but with practice. Not to impress, but to integrate. Not to take, but to walk beside. And when you both walk side by side, shoulder to shoulder, you'll realize that the journey was never about finding someone to carry you. It was about meeting someone who'd walk beside you at your real pace. Even when that pace slows, even when it stops, even when you sit down in the middle of your own healing and say, I can't go further today, they won't rush you. They won't shame you. They'll sit too. And sometimes that's what love really looks like, not the walk, but the stillness between steps. And over time, you'll start to notice how your language changes, not the words you speak, but the way you use them. There's less defense, less performance, less trying to be understood by those who've never listened beyond their own echo. You begin to say only what needs to be said. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for your sensitivity. You stop editing your passion down to make it easier for others to digest. And the one who stands beside you doesn't flinch when you speak from your fire. They don't shrink when your truth sharpens. They don't mistake your clarity for conflict. Because they're not afraid of your voice, they're aligned with it. They've found their own voice through silence, just like you did. So when you speak, they don't interrupt. They wait. Not because they're quiet, but because they're tuned in. And being listened to, not heard, but deeply times listened to, times rebuilds something you didn't even know was missing. It teaches your heart to stay, your lungs to expand, your soul to stop holding its breath. Because now, your words aren't falling into emptiness. They're landing, resonating, moving things. And that kind of connection, it doesn't just feel good. It feels like resurrection. And that resurrection touches everything. Not just your relationships. Your creativity opens. Your boundaries sharpen. Your tolerance for chaos dissolves. You no longer confuse intensity with connection. You no longer invest in people who need to be convinced to treat you well. You no longer justify mistreatment because of potential. You stop needing to be the fixer, the interpreter, the spiritual translator for people not willing to meet you where you are. Because now you are met, fully, without bending, without shrinking, without asking permission to be complex. And they won't need you to simplify yourself to make them comfortable. They will not fear your layers. They will not try to organize your depth into something digestible. They will meet each layer as it arrives, slowly, deliberately, with reverence, with patience, with the kind of attention that tells you you are not too much. You are just unfamiliar to people who have never dared to feel this deeply. And that unfamiliarity, that's where the beauty begins. Because together, you're building something that's never existed before. Not a replica of what others have, not a projection of what you thought love would be, but something original, something only you two could create, something unspoken but understood. A private language built through presence, through the accumulation of ordinary moments done intentionally, the way they pour your coffee without asking, the way they check the room when you're quiet, the way they remember the things you said when you were only half paying attention to your own words. They hold it all, not because they're trying to impress you, but because they value the pieces of you most people overlook. And you'll do the same. You'll see the way their hands move when they speak, the way their eyes shift when they're thinking, the way their voice softens when they're processing something unspoken. You'll notice the pauses, not as awkward, but as sacred. You'll realize that what you're building is not just a relationship, it's a sanctuary, a place neither of you has had before. Not a space built on convenience, or performance, or fantasy, but on resonance, on choice, on presence. And you'll look back at every version of yourself that doubted this would ever come. You'll remember every room you sat in, feeling like you had to hide your light to avoid being misunderstood. You'll recall the ache of trying to make broken things feel whole, and then you'll look at them not because they saved you, but because they didn't, and you'll whisper, quietly, without needing to be dramatic, "I get it now." Because this person didn't come to complete your story. They came to honor the chapters that others skipped, to underline the sentences you whispered, to reread the pages you thought no one would care to understand. And in doing so, they become a witness not to your perfection, but to your becoming. They don't love you because you're healed. They love you because you're healing and honest about it. They don't ask for your highlight reel. They hold space for your process. And in that space, something rare begins to grow. Something untouched by trend. Something immune to validation from the outside. Something you can't post about in a way that makes sense to anyone else. Because it's not for show. It's for you. It's for them. It's for the version of you that once believed no one would stay when they saw the full picture. And now, someone has arrived not to stare at your masterpiece, but to sit beside you as you paint, to pass you the brush when your hands are tired, to remind you that even when the colors run wild, it's still beautiful, still worthy, still yours and theirs, and both. And maybe the most unexpected part is how unceremonious the beginning feels. There's no build-up, no climax, no voice from the sky telling you, this is the one. There's just a moment, a shared glance, a sentence dropped in passing that lingers in your mind longer than it should. Something small, something subtle, but unmistakably different. You don't recognize it with your logic. You recognize it with your nervous system, with the part of you that doesn't speak in words, only responses. And your body does respond, not with butterflies or fireworks, but with a quiet drop in your chest. A peace, a permission, the same kind of permission you feel when you walk into your childhood home after years away and everything smells familiar, even if the furniture's changed. It's the kind of recognition that transcends explanation, the kind that bypasses personality and lands in the soul. Because this connection won't be built through compatibility. It will be built through presence. You won't match on paper. You won't check every box. But they will understand you in ways people with perfect resumes never did. They'll see the version of you that doesn't always get airtime, the one that hides when the world starts asking too much, the one that's been quiet for so long, it forgot how to speak. And you won't have to bring that version out for them. They'll find it. They'll see it in the way you fidget when you're overwhelmed, in the way your eyes drift when you're overthinking, in the way you fall silent when your boundaries have been touched but not crossed. And they won't ask you to perform past it. They'll just sit there, maybe reach for your hand, maybe just breathe a little deeper so you know you're not alone in the moment. And that kind of companionship, it doesn't feel like lightning. It feels like water. Soft, essential, unshakable. Because this love won't flood you. It will fill you. And it won't be rushed. Because they've unlearned the urgency too. They know now that depth takes time, that safety takes repetition, that trust isn't built in words, it's built in behavior. And so they won't try to convince you of anything. They'll show you. In the way they speak your name like it matters. In the way they remember your preferences without turning them into obligations. In the way they let you go quiet without making it about them. And your soul will feel that. It will feel the absence of pressure,